25 minutes before 11 o'clock. You know what they say? When you are ill and you have a name for your illness, you suddenly become an expert in that illness. And when you're in a car accident or in any legal circumstances, all of a sudden you start to learn a lot about your circumstances, but you're never going to know as much as an attorney knows. So sounds like you need an attorney pretty much in anything in this world. John Fuller is here. He's our favorite attorney. He is an attorney at the law firm of Fuller & Fuller here in Ocala. He does this program to answer your legal questions each Wednesday. The show is called Legally Yours. And Janet Fuller is the other Fuller in the Fuller & Fuller law firm. Good morning, John. How you doing?
Good morning, Larry. I'm fine, thank you. And good morning to our listeners. It's nice to be here in the studio with you and enjoy doing the show where we talk about just about anything related to legal matters that I'm familiar with and can offer at least some general suggestions and advice on. Obviously, if you have a case or think you have a case, you need to speak directly with an attorney. And if it's in the area of serious automobile accident injuries, personal injury, wrongful death, business or commercial litigation, complex family law, or Social Security disability, we at Fuller & Fuller, Janet Fuller and myself, would be happy to talk with you about your individual case. And our phone number is 352-547-4292, or you can get all the information about us and about our law firm on our website at ocala-lawyer.com. So hopefully we'll have some callers, and I see we have one. That's great.
Yes, sir. Good morning. You're on the air with John Fuller. Are you there?
Sorry, I think I must have the wrong number.
Okay.
Well, it's nice to hear from you anyway.
All right. So if you want to be the right number, call us at 622-9622. And thank you for helping me. I had the audience knows that I hit a cow Saturday.
No, that's
Saturday.
They didn't hear it from me, because that was a call like that to a lawyer, whether you hire the lawyer or not, or whether the lawyer can help you or takes your case or doesn't, or you even have a case. Those things are all privileged and confidential. So you can choose to make whatever comment, but they didn't hear it from me.
Absolutely, but
I'm sorry you experienced that, and I'm certainly happy to have the opportunity to help you and Robin, and that's pretty scary, and it reminds all of us just how fragile life is. I mean, you're driving.
Heartbeat, yeah.
You're driving carefully. You're driving slowly for the conditions appropriately, and something aberrant like that's happened. I had a client last year, wonderful. 28-year-old young woman, recently married, bachelor's degree in business from the University of Florida, was on her way to work, and a woman turned left, contrary to the traffic control device, crashed into her car. Her car had the latest restraints, side airbags, front airbags, everything deployed, and she had to have 5 neurosurgeries.
Oh my goodness!
She had massive infections. Ended up with a indwelling, what they call a PICC line in her vein.
Oh my goodness!
To provide months and months of IV antibiotic therapy, severe headaches. Her life was literally turned upside down. And in that case, the woman had some insurance, but it was way inadequate. She was hospitalized for 6 or 8 weeks, and then in a rehab facility for weeks and weeks after that. Multiple surgeries, as I said. And it's important for people to look at their own insurance policy and make sure what coverage they have, because they can insure themselves against a lot of perils where they are people on the highway driving without any assets and without any insurance. So you definitely want to look and talk to your agent and buy as much uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage that you can afford.
And a deer wouldn't have any coverage if you hit a deer.
Well, no, but no, that's a wild animal. If someone owns livestock and they've allowed that livestock to get out on a road, then you potentially have a claim against the property, the owner of the animal.
Right,
Okay, so the question is, what does your own insurance policy call for to start with? Because that's your first order of business. And like they say, the devil's in the details. Those policies, most people never ever read their insurance policy. They buy the insurance. They get their little card. They put it in their billfold.
Right.
And they never read their policy. And sometimes the insurance people who sell insurance, they are not necessarily anxious to sell a product that has a low profit margin for them. And uninsured motorist has a very low profit margin for them.
Oh, really?
Yes. In fact, the law was changed a number of years ago to require that they must offer it to you and they must tell you about
really?
it.
Oh, wow.
And then they must get your written rejection signed, everything in writing.
Oh.
Because so many people were on the road and they would tell you when you talk to them after an accident, I've got full coverage. Well, what does that mean? I've got full coverage. Well, that means nothing. And you look at their policy, and they didn't have any uninsured motorist coverage. They could have had $500,000 of liability, so that if they were at fault and hit somebody, that would protect them from an adverse verdict up to that amount, judgment, and benefit the person who was hurt. But if the person who was negligent hurt them, had no insurance, no assets, and they had no uninsured motorist coverage, they were on their own. So now you actually have to sign a written rejection that the insurance agent has advised you about your right to purchase uninsured motorist and offered it to you, and you knowingly rejected it by signing a statement that says, I acknowledge that they've told me about this, and I knowingly and willingly reject that, sign it, and check the box, I don't want UM. I think that's a big mistake. I recognize the financial reality of everyone, really, and you come a point where you have to make priorities of what you can buy and what you can't buy.
Right.
But that is one area that I recommend to all people that they put themselves first. Because if somebody who is a deadbeat, no, they don't mean to be pejorative with that, but they have no assets. Maybe they've had multiple DUIs. Maybe their driver's license been suspended. You can read it in the paper every day where people are driving without a license. They have no insurance. And if they run a red light and seriously hurt you, well, then, your personal injury protection caps out at best at $10,000 in most instances.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just a thought.
And John, you have another phone call coming in. Let's take that call. Good morning. You're on the air with John Fuller.
Good morning.
Good morning.
One thing I always carry a lot of uninsured motorist coverage because I don't know what the other guy's carrying. I mean, the other guy may only have $50,000 liability. He may only have $10,000. Like you said, he may have none. So this way, I just protect myself and carry as much as you can possibly afford to buy.
Absolutely. That's the point I was just making. In the case that I just alluded to, we were very fortunate by hiring a very competent asset investigation firm, and we were able to discover before the suit was filed that the woman who had significant insurance, but it was still inadequate when you consider 8 weeks in a hospital and 5 brain surgeries.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
You're talking outrageous medical bills. And so we were very fortunate that this woman had substantial assets, and we were able to get substantial assets way above the policy limits of her liability policy. But it reminded me that with medical costs the way they are today, it's really almost you almost can't have too much. And of course, the young lady who just called made a good point. You don't know what the other guy has. He could have nothing. He could have 10. And with a couple of CT scans and a few days in the hospital, you'll eat up $10,000. Not to talk about your lost wages, your pain and suffering, your lost future lost wages, that sort of thing.
John, we have to take a little break. The phone line is open. If you want to call John, the number is 622-9622. We'll take a little break and be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. It'll be partly sunny today with a thunderstorm around during the afternoon and evening hours, the high 89 to 93. Partly cloudy overnight, low 73 to 77. Times of sun and clouds tomorrow with an afternoon thunderstorm in the area, high 89 to 93. On Friday, partly sunny and very warm with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm, mainly in the afternoon, the high 88 to 92. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Are you in need of custom screen printing, embroidery, or promotional items? Then look no further and come visit the brand new Legacy Team Sales. LTS is conveniently located off 17th Street next to Armstrong Homes in beautiful Ocala. We offer the best prices and highest quality products for your company, team, school, or nonprofit. Whether looking for screen printed shirts, embroidered polos, or travel team uniforms, you'll be sure to find it at Legacy Team Sales. Come visit our new 27,000 square foot facility. Our friendly and knowledgeable sales staff will assist you in every part of your custom purchase. LTS carries the hottest brands in the industry like Under Armour, Russell, Mizuno, Asics, Badger Sports, Gildan, Pacific, Ogio, and many more. At LTS, screen printing embroidery is done in-house and we guarantee customer satisfaction. Stop by, give us a call, or check us out on the web at shoplts.com. Remember the name, LTS.
Don Nottingham of the Miami Dolphins here, proud to be this year's chairman of the Special Olympics Champions for Champions event. Come join players from the world of professional sports, sharing their stories with a great dinner on Friday, September 18th, and or play at Candler Hills Golf Club on Saturday, September 19th. Either way, you'll be helping the Special Olympics of Marion County Champions for Champions. Call 988-7998 for details. That's 988-7998. Please help our Special Olympians.
Good credits, bad credits. It's none of our business because we're not an auto dealer. We're not a bank. We're not your mother. We're OcalaForSale.com. Marion County's marketplace for cars, trucks, and SUVs. We've got thousands of sellers standing by to take your call. No middleman. But hurry, don't walk, don't run. Just sit down and log on to OcalaForSale.com. Prices and inventory change daily. Offer does not include dealer upcharge. Undercutting, rust-proofing, factory surcharge, or delivery fee. See website for details.
What are the most common questions those nearing retirement are asking? Will I outlive my money? Retirement questions like these and many more will be answered every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on Planning for a Better and Safer Retirement with hosts Francois and Julian Pozenet. Francois and Julian will help you put your retirement puzzle together. Catch Planning for a Better and Safer Retirement Saturdays at 9 a.m. on Ocala's News Talk, The Source 96.3 FM and 1370 AM.
All right, 12 minutes before 11 o'clock. John Fuller is here from the law firm of Fuller & Fuller. The segment is called Legally Yours. And by the way, I should have told you the date. It is September 2nd, 2015. It's important when John is here to tell you the date because a lot of times we do rebroadcasts of previous shows, and that's simply because John is in court quite a lot. But he's here today. If your calendar shows that it's September 2nd, then you're listening to a live show, and your phone calls are invited and welcome. The number 622-9622. And of course, if you want to speak to John privately, you'd have to call him at his office
at 352-547-4292. Or again, if you want all of our information, email about our firm, about us individually, our training, background, experience. All that information is on our website, and that's at ocala-lawyer.com. The law firm is Fuller & Fuller.
So we've been talking about insurance a lot, and so let's say there's a guy on the street and he stabs you, there's no insurance for walking down the sidewalk. So how do you sue him? I mean, he stabbed you. How do you sue him?
If he did what?
If he stabs you, if you're walking down the street,
all right.
somebody.
Well, no, you cannot insure against an intentional act. That's against the public policy of the state of Florida. Somebody who's going to go out and shoot you or batter you or attack you, and then say, "Well, I have insurance if you sue me." Insurance companies does not cover a willful, intentional criminal act. So you're left to trying to find, number one, the person who attacked you obviously would be the number one target. As it is probably no surprise, most people who live their life like that have no money, have no insurance, have no assets, have nothing to compensate you with.
But I guess
so then you look to see, is there some other third party who has some degree of negligence in that? Premises liability, the owner of the property. You made it a little more difficult with walking down a sidewalk, but put that in the context of a commercial shopping center, for example, or a mall. They invite people in to spend money, and there is an expectation of reasonable provision for their safety. If they only have 10% of the required lighting in their parking lot, so that the parking lot looks like a back alley and becomes a haven for people to hide and perpetrate crimes on patrons of that commercial center going in and out to spend their money there, you can sue them for negligent security. Okay? So there are other things that you can do.
The shopping center, not the person.
Yes, but because they have not maintained a reasonably safe premises for a risk that they knew or should have known might befall their business invitees, people who they put a big sign out and says, "Come shop here. Welcome. Bring your money." Or your credit cards.
Yeah, right.
And so if they don't have a safe shopping center, if they don't have some kind of security. Now, nobody is held to a perfect standard of guaranteeing absolute safety. I mean, you can't be responsible for the criminal acts of people that are beyond all reasonable foreseeability, but they are required to have a certain degree of, lighting is a perfect example. If they don't maintain the lighting in their parking lot, and they don't have adequate lighting, either because they didn't spend enough money to install sufficient lights, or they didn't do enough maintenance to make sure that the bulbs were timely replaced. And so in order for you to go back to your vehicle after spending your money in the commercial establishment, you're essentially walking a long distance at night in a dark black parking lot. Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that might be a fertile environment for somebody who wants to be hidden, who wants to perpetrate a crime, not seen, that sort of thing. And the more sophisticated our technology goes, most commercial places now have some form of surveillance cameras.
Right.
Not only for the protection of their patrons, but for the protections of their staff and the people who work there. I mean, everybody that works in one of those places has to go and come from them. And it's one of the big debates is very troubling because a few establishments have exercised their right to put up a sign that prohibits lawful, licensed, concealed carrier permit carriers who are perfectly valid, legal citizens' right to bear arms and permitted by the state of Florida or the state they live in. They put up a sign saying firearms are barred from here. Well, there's a big argument, and I don't want to get in this debate because it could go on forever, but you basically just opened up a kill zone that, you think a guy who's going to come in and shoot you, you think he's going to pay attention to that sign? We have a law that says shooting somebody is aggravated battery or attempted murder or manslaughter or whatever. And if he's prepared to violate a crime to that degree, paying attention to some little sign, but John Doe citizen, who's a good, solid citizen, he doesn't carry his lawfully entitled ability to protect himself.
Good point. And
he goes in there, and all of a sudden, some nutcase comes up and starts shooting people.
That's a really good point.
That's very troublesome. At least personally, and this is my personal opinion, very troubling to me. Especially, for instance, the hospital is a classic situation. They have signs there that prohibit that. People are there visiting their loved ones who are critically ill all hours of the day and night. And when you leave, your car could be a half a mile from the entrance to that facility, and you have to walk at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to the parking lot to go home. It's always been amazing to me. And I know people, and I've read articles where people have actually gone in and spoken to the management and said, I've seen your sign, I've abided by your sign, and had a little card and said, I just want to place you on notice that because of your interference of my constitutional and legal right to carry my concealed permit, and here's my permit, if anything happens to me, I'm going to hold you strictly liable because you've prevented me from the reasonable means of protecting myself and my family. Whether that's any legal validity or not, I have no idea and express no opinion on that. But I know I've read articles where people have done that. Or at the very least, they make it a statement so that management knows, and most of it is corporate headquarters from some other state, that they're not going to patronize that facility because of that policy. They'll choose to spend their money elsewhere.
That's a pretty fascinating twist.
Anyway, like I say, it's one of those things that I am reluctant. I don't debate. I don't discuss. I don't get into arguments with people. I know there's the people who feel strongly on both sides, and I'll just leave it at that. But that's something that.
I'll never forget the time we were doing the veteran show, and there was somebody who came in as a guest, and there was a bunch of guys. They were all vets, and this one guy was kind of anti-gun, and he said, I don't even know why people need to carry a gun. Who actually carries a gun? And every single one of those guys said, well, I got mine. They were all patting their leg.
Well, all you have to do, Florida was the first and most enlightened state in the United States and passed the first right to carry, which meant the state of Florida, if you hadn't been convicted of a crime, suffered from mental illness, took a concealed weapons shooting course, demonstrated your ability with safety and ability to shoot a firearm, went through a criminal background search, submitted your fingerprints and a recent passport type photograph, that the state of Florida had to give you a permit to carry, subject to the limitations of the statute. You can't carry it into a sporting event. You can't carry it in the courthouse. You can't carry it in an airport. They have places where even with a permit, you can't carry it by law. And that was the first state in the union to do that. Now, just about every state has patterned their law after Florida. I think.
Is that right?
I think New York, California are the two that have not, and maybe up until just recently, Illinois, because of the large vote in the Chicago bloc was very anti-gun, and they were able to block it in the legislature.
I remember hearing that.
And the Democratic governor would veto it, even though all of Illinois that wasn't in Chicago voted for it. There was enough to uphold the governor's veto. I think they've had a political change of climate. I haven't read lately on that. You can go online to a website called packing.org, and it will list all the different concealed weapon permit laws of every state in the United States. And most states now give reciprocity. So if you have a valid permit in Florida and another state has a permit, and these two states recognize each other's permits, then you're lawfully allowed to carry in those
I remember
states.
that. Yeah, that was...
Now, the important thing people need to understand is that each one of those laws in each state may have a little bit of a variation. For instance, some states require that if you are stopped for a speeding ticket or whatever, you immediately notify the law enforcement officer that you are licensed to carry concealed, show him your permit,
Right.
and that you are actually armed. Some states don't require that. So, you know, if you're driving through all these states and you look on it and it says reciprocity, 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 you ought to go Google the actual law in that state and see what they say. Some states allow you to carry weapons with a concealed permit in other places that are prohibited by other states. So you want to be sure you
got to know what you're doing.
You know what the law of the state or states in which you're driving through say.
So many things. This is why we need an attorney. John, what is your number? How do we get a hold of you?
352-547-4292. Our toll-free number is 855-534-2565. The law firm of Fuller and Fuller, and you can get all our information on our website at ocala-lawyer.com.
Thank you, John. Always fascinating.
Thank you. Yeah, nice show. Thanks to all our listeners.
We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
It's time for Farm and Ranch